All right, let's talk about one of America's biggest New Year's traditions, the Rose Parade. But here's the thing. This isn't just a story about pretty flowers. Oh no. This is a story that kicks off with an absolutely disastrous football game, takes a bizarre detour through chariot races, and somehow, against all odds, turns into this massive global spectacle. You're not going to believe how this all started. Let's get into it. 49-0. Just let that score sink in for a second. This isn't just a number, it's practically a crime scene. And believe it or not, this brutal, lopsided beatdown is the real starting point for the world-famous Rose Bowl game. Yeah, our story begins right here, with a total disaster. I mean, the domination was just absolute. On New Year's Day, 1902, the Tournament of Roses invites what they called the best team in the West, the University of Michigan, to play Stanford. And Michigan didn't just win, they took them apart. Just look at these stats. 527 rushing yards to a measly 67, 27 first downs to just 5. It was a complete and utter annihilation.
It got so bad that something happened you almost never, ever see in football. With 8 whole minutes still left to play, Stanford's captain literally walked over to the Michigan sideline and just gave up. He conceded the game. I mean, Michigan's team was legendary. They were called the points-a-minute team, and it outscored opponents 550-0 that season. The game was over long before it was actually over. The whole thing was such a train wreck that the tournament organizers basically panicked. They thought, well, nobody's ever going to want to see another football game after that. So what did they do? They scrapped football completely, and they replaced it with, get this, chariot races. Seriously. For the next 16 years, there was no football on New Year's Day in Pasadena, just chariots.
But this whole football mess was really just a sideshow. Which brings up a pretty big question. Why on earth was there a football game attached to a flower parade to begin with? To get that answer, we've got to go back even further.
Okay, so let's rewind to where the parade actually came from. And spoiler alert, it wasn't about sports. It was about marketing, it was about bragging, plain and simple.
The entire idea came from this exclusive group called the Valley Hunt Club in Pasadena. These were all wealthy guys who had moved from the freezing cold East Coast, and they wanted to show off their new life. One of the members, Charles Frederick Holder, had this simple, brilliant idea. He said, in New York, people are buried in snow. Let's hold a festival to tell the world about our paradise. The whole thing was basically the 1890s version of an Instagram post designed to make everyone back east super jealous. So that very first parade back in 1890, it was pretty humble. It was called the Battle of Flowers, and it was really just people decorating their own personal carriages and buggies with flowers they picked from their gardens. And after the parade, they'd have these community games, foot races, tug of war, that kind of thing.
So let's just recap these wild early years, okay? It starts as this simple little flower parade. Then they try to spice things up with a football game, which ends in that 49-0 disaster. So then they ditch football and bring in chariot races and even ostrich races for a while. It was just this period of truly bizarre experimentation. But while all that chaos with the sporting events was going on, the parade itself was starting to change. Those simple, flower-covered carriages were slowly, year by year, turning into the unbelievable, multi-ton engineering masterpieces we see today. Let's dig into how that actually happens. It all comes down to one single golden rule. You can't use paint or plastic or any artificial stuff on the outside. Every single visible inch of that float has to be covered with something that was once alive. Flowers, leaves, seeds, bark, you name it. That rule is what makes these floats so incredibly unique. In building one of these things, oh man, it's a massive year-long effort. It all starts with design and engineering, planning out all the moving parts. Then they weld this huge steel frame and cover it in a wire mesh, kind of like a giant sculpture. That mesh gets sprayed with this stuff that makes a hard shell. They call it cocooning. And only then, in the last frantic weeks before the parade, do thousands of volunteers show up to glue on every single flower and seed and leaf by hand. The scale here is just staggering. We're talking 80,000 volunteer hours every year. A single float can have 15 tons of steel in it. Across the entire parade, they use over 18 million flowers. And get this, more than 500,000 roses, each one placed in its own tiny vial of water to keep it fresh. Oh, and here's my favorite detail. The floats have to be engineered so they can actually collapse down to 16.5 feet tall, just so they can fit under one freeway overpass on the way to the parade route. How wild is that? Okay, so let's get back to the football.
after being kicked out for being such a disaster, how did it possibly make a comeback and become the main event?
Well, by 1916, those chariot races had started to get way too expensive and, frankly, pretty dangerous. So the Tournament Association figured, hey, maybe it's time to give football another shot. The sport had gotten a lot more popular across the country, and they were hoping people were finally ready for a real East-West showdown.
And this time, it stuck. Big time. The game quickly became just as important as the parade itself. It was this perfect cornerstone of the New Year's celebration and grew into one of the most prestigious college football games in the country, earning that legendary nickname, the granddaddy of them all.
So, you fast forward to today, and that little local festival that was just meant to show off the sunny weather, well, it has evolved into something else entirely. It's a massive, high-tech, global phenomenon. And it is a huge economic powerhouse. Just the 2024 parade and game alone pumped an estimated $245 million into the local LA economy. This isn't just a party, it's a whole industry that supports over 2,000 full-time jobs. The way technology has blended with tradition is just incredible. I mean, we've gone from simple horse-drawn carriages to the very first EV-powered floats made of 85% recycled materials. From just fresh-cut flowers to actual robotic systems that can make petals look like they're changing color. And it's gone from a local spectacle to a global broadcast seen by millions, with live drone feeds and all. It's night and day. And you know, it all comes back to these guys. This is that 1902 Michigan team. The ones who were so good, they almost killed the Rose Bowl before it even had a chance to get started. They created a crisis that led to a 16-year detour into chariot racing, all because they were just too dominant. But here's the most amazing part. Today, that game, the one that was considered a total failure, a blowout so bad they banished it, is now immortalized. There's a bronze statue outside the Rose Bowl Stadium honoring that very team and that 49-0 victory. The disaster has literally become a legend. So from a simple marketing stunt to a football disaster to chariot races, and finally to this global icon of art and sport, it's just such an unbelievable journey. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What traditions that we all know and love today will have a similarly wild, unrecognizable, and amazing story 100 years from now?